Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Edible Gardening in St. Johns County. I'm Amy Ackerman, the Assistant Branch Manager of the Main Library in St. Augustine, Florida. I'm joined here today with Terra Freeman from the local Extension Office. Terra, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and your office?
Sure, Amy. Thank you. I'm excited to be here today to talk about December vegetable and fruit gardening. So in our office it's IFAS Extension, St. Johns County. If anyone's not familiar with it, we are on Agricultural Center Drive, which is very close to the St. Augustine outlets. And it's the same road as mosquito control. They're our neighbors. So our purpose is to share research-based information with the public. So we take research-based information from the researchers and scientists at UF and other land-grant universities and share that with the public. And my particular role is to educate about horticulture, whether it's edibles or lawn care, or how to prune your trees, or plant diagnostics. We have the Master Gardener Volunteer Program. So we're kind of a general horticulture gardening related resource.
So anybody in the public can just call you guys up and ask you pretty much any question that you have?
We try our best to answer it. And if we don't know it, the great thing is that we are connected to the university. So we know the specialists to reach out to find that information.
Fantastic. And if they want to get a hold of you, what's a good number or email address?
So my email address is terraf@ufl.edu. So TERRAF@ufl.edu.
Perfect. Okay, so we had been talking about some cool weather plants. What do you have for us for December?
Okay, so December is still a good time for gardening, cool season crops. So if you're not sure what those are, that's a very easy topic to look up. But some examples, greens, salad greens, cabbages, collards, broccoli, beets. One of my favorites would be arugula. You can still grow Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, and you can seed onions, radishes, and turnips. So all of these can be planted when the temperature is at least 40 degrees out, but they will continue to grow with the cooler temperatures as well.
So speaking of cooler temperatures, it hasn't happened in recent memory, but we do sometimes get some frosts and freezes. Is this something that we should start thinking about now?
Absolutely. It's great to be prepared because you never know when the temperatures might suddenly take a turn, and you want to be able to go into your garage or shed and pull out quickly what you need. So frost can actually form at 37 degrees on a still night with no wind. We can actually get frost at 37 degrees. And then hard freezes can occur at 28 degrees or more for 4 hours. So just to be on the safe side, if there's a plant that you're questioning if you need to protect it or not, if it's going to be 32 degrees or less, it's a good idea to protect it and cover it up. And especially if you are talking about tropical or subtropical plants, because a lot of people like to plant, mangoes, papayas, bananas, and they will get damaged in these colder temperatures here. So it's important to protect them. And I would just say 32 degrees or lower to be on the safe side, even though many of those, the temperature range they can withstand, the lowest ranges between 26 and 32 degrees.
So what kind of materials would be good for protecting different plants?
Okay, so the good thing is there are a lot of different options. So the ideal option would be to purchase some freeze cloth. That's just a thin polyester woven cloth that has thermal protection. It can actually make a difference between 6 to 8 degrees Fahrenheit, which is a major difference when the temperatures are dropping. So you can easily find the frost cloth at garden centers, hardware stores, or even order them online. But if you don't have that, you can certainly use old sheets, blankets, quilts, some other options. You can even use an upside down trash can or a garden pot if the plants are small enough. But if you're talking a larger plant, such as a citrus tree, you may need something larger like a sheet or a quilt.
So with the frost cloth, is that just a one-time use sort of thing, or is it something that we can just buy and keep on hand for a while?
It's a really good investment because you can use it for years.
Oh.
As long as you just take care of it, store it away in your shed when you're not using it, it's not going to break down readily. So.
And when we are actually covering something, do you just like throw a sheet over a tree, or is there a certain way that we need to kind of attach it?
That is an excellent question, because if you're going to go through the effort of covering it, you need to know how to properly protect your plant. So when you are covering, you need to cover all the way to the ground and try to hold it down with something, whether it's bricks or ground staples or, a piece of wood you have lying around, something to make the edges of the frost cloth or blanket stay put. And this is because the way it works is the soil surrounding the plant is going to release heat during the night, and you want it to be trapped inside whatever protective covering you are providing. So in addition, when we are anticipating these colder temperatures, another thing that's really helpful and important to do is water the soil around these plants about 48 hours or so before the expected temperature drop, or even the same day before the temperature drop, because moist soil is going to release more heat during these colder temperatures to help protect the plants.
So what do we do, or how do we know if there has been a frost and maybe we haven't covered up our plants? How do we know if the plant has been damaged? Like, what should we look for and what should we do?
Okay, so different plants will exhibit, a little differently, but let's take a citrus tree or a fruit tree, for example. So the leaves are going to turn kind of a blackish color, but the real sign is the leaves will drop within a few days, and that's actually a good sign if the leaves drop, because it means the wood most likely has not been damaged or killed. But when the leaves stay on the branches, that's a stronger possibility that the wood itself has been damaged or killed. But that being said, we would suggest just leaving the leaves on, not pruning the tree until spring when temperatures have warmed up, because that's how you can fully assess the situation to see, how to see the extent of the damage. But also leaving those leaves on will also provide a certain level of insulation to protect the tree from the next time we get a heavy freeze.
Okay. So let's see here. Because I know in the past that I have had some bushes like during a freeze where I thought they were dead and I just chopped them all down and they started growing again, but it turns out that that's probably not the best way to handle it. What happens during that when they start growing a little bit prematurely?
Okay, so good question. That's why we don't recommend pruning right before winter or during winter, is because we will likely have some warm days, and that will initiate new growth. And that newer growth is tender and more likely to be damaged than the older growth. So ideally, you would just wait until early spring to start your pruning. And another thing, when you were asking how do you assess if a plant, the level of damage. So if you're talking about a tree or a shrub, if you just use your thumbnail to scrape that top layer of bark on the twigs, mm-hmm. and if you see brown right below it, that's a sign that that part of the wood is dead. But if you see green, it's still alive.
Oh, okay.
It's nice. You can start kind of at the top and scrape it. If you see brown, green, you just kind of go down until you see green. And then when the time is right to prune, you're going to prune down to the live growth. And that's how you'll help rejuvenate your tree properly in the early spring.
That's a really good tip, Tara. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So is there anything else that you feel we need to know about with hopefully coming cold weather?
So one thing, not to be confusing. So while it is important to protect certain crops. We're only talking, vegetable crops that need protection, or certain fruit crops, or certain containerized plants, plants that are not hardy in our area. Containerized plants are extra susceptible to damage. So for those, you would want to group them together. So if you have several, put them close together. You can even surround them with mulch. And they tend to be easier to cover with a blanket or a frost cloth, because they tend not to be as large as a full-grown tree. Oh, and then, speaking of protecting your citrus, we had talked about, if you can, cover the whole tree, but sometimes your tree might be too large to cover, and then what do you do? So for that, you can at least protect the trunk. So where the root stock meets the scion, which is the top part, where they've been grafted together, is an important spot to protect. So you can actually wrap some protective cloth around there and keep that covered. And that way, if there is damage, you're protecting so that the scion will resprout later on.
Well, you've certainly given us a lot of really good options on how to care for our plants during cold season. So we appreciate that, Terra.
Oh, you're very welcome. It was fun.
So we'll be coming back again in January, where I think we're going to be talking about composting.
Sounds good to me.
Perfect. Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us. And thank you, Terra, again for coming in and giving us this really great information. We do appreciate you.
Welcome. This was fun. Thank you.
Have a great day, everyone.